that under certain conditions, which occur the more frequently as division of labor and the differentiation of wants are extended, indirect exchange becomes inevitable, and that the evolution of indirect exchange gradually led to the employment of a few particular commodities, or even one commodity only, as a common medium of exchange. When there is no exchange of any sort, and hence no indirect exchange, the use of media of exchange naturally remains unknown. This was the situation when the isolated household was the typical economic unit, and this, according to socialist aspiration, is what it will be again one day in that purely socialistic order where production and distribution are to be systematically regulated by a central body. This vision of the future socialistic system has not been described in detail by its prophet, and in fact it is not the same vision which they all see. There are some among them who allowed a certain scope for exchange of economic goods and services, and so far as this is the case, of continued use of money remains possible. On the other hand, the certificate or orders that the organized society would distribute to its members cannot be regarded as money. Supposing that a receipt was given, say, to each laborer for each hour's labor, and that the social income, so far as it was not employed for the satisfaction of collective needs or support of those not able to work, was distributed in proportion to the number of receipts in the possession of each individual, so that each receipt represents a claim to an equivalent part of the total amount of goods to be distributed. Then the significance of any particular receipt as a means of satisfying the wants of an individual, in other words, its value, would vary in proportion to the size of the total dividend. If this the same number of hours of labor, the income of the society in a given year was only half as big as in the previous years, then the value of each receipt would likewise be half. The case of money is different. The decrease of 50% in the real social income would certainly involve a reduction in the purchasing power of money, but this reduction in the value of money needs not bear any direct relation to the decrease in the size of the income. It might accidentally happen that the purchasing power of money was exactly half also, but it need not happen so. This difference is of fundamental importance. In fact, the exchange value of money is determined in a totally different way from that of a certificate or warrant. Titles like these are not susceptible of an independent process of valuation at all. If it is certain that a warrant or other will always be honest on demand, then its value will be equal to that of the good to which it refers. If this certainly is not absolute, the value of the warrant will be correspondingly less. If we suppose that a system of exchange might be developed, even if a socialist society not merely the exchange of labor certificate, but say the exchange of consumption goods between individuals, then we may conceive of a place for the functions of money even within the framework of such a society. This money would not be so frequently and variously employed as in an economic order based on private ownership of the means of production, but its use could be governed by the same fundamental principles. This consideration dictates the attitude toward money that must be assumed by any attempt to construct an imaginary social order. If self-contradiction is to be avoided, so long as such a scheme completely excludes the free exchange of goods and services, then it follows logically that it has no need for money, but so far as any sort of exchange at all is allowed, it seems that indirect exchange achieved by means of a common medium of exchange must be permitted also. Two money-crank, superficial critics of the capitalistic economic system are in the habit of directing their attack principally against money. They are willing to permit the continuance of private ownership of the means of production and consequently, given the present state of division of labor, of free exchange of goods also, and yet they want this exchange to be achieved without any medium, or at least without a common medium or money. They obviously regard the use of money as harmful and hope to overcome all social evil by eliminating it. Their doctrine is derived from notions that have always been extraordinarily popular in lay circles during periods in which the use of money has been increasing. All the processes of our economic life appeared in a monetary guise, and those who do not see beneath the surface of things are only aware of monetary phenomena and remain unconscious of deeper relationships. Money is regarded as the cause of theft and murder, of deception and betrayal. Money is blamed when the prostitute sells her body and when the preachers pervert the law. It is money against which the moralist declaim when he wishes to oppose excessive materialism. Significantly enough, a virus is called the love of money, and all evil is attributed to it. The confused and vague nature of such notions as this is obvious. It is not so clear whether it is thought that a return to direct exchange by itself will be able to overcome all disadvantage of the use of money, or whether it is thought that other reform will be necessary as well. The one maker and one improver responsible for the notions feel no obligation to follow up their idea inexorably to their final consequences. They prefer to call a halt at the point where the difficulties of the problem are just beginning, and this incidentally accounts for the longevity of their doctrines. So long as they remain nebulous, they offer nothing to criticisms, to seize upon, even less worthy of serious attention are those schemes of social reform which, while not commending the use of money in general, object to the use of gold and silver. In fact, such hostility to the precious metals has something very tragic in it, when too much more, for example, indulges the criminals in his utopia with golden chains and the ordinary citizens with gold and silver chamber pots. It is in something of the spirit that led primitive mankind to Greek vengeances on lifeless images and symbols. It is hardly worthwhile to devote even a moment to such fantastic suggestions, which have never been taken seriously. All the criticisms of them that was necessary has been completed long ago, but one point which usually escapes notice must be emphasized. Among the many confused enemies of money, there is one group that fights with other theoretical weapons, that those used by its usual associates. These enemies of money take their argument from the prevailing theory of banking and propose to cure all human ill by means of an elastic credit system automatically adapted to the needs of currencies. It will surprise no one acquainted with the unsatisfactory state of banking theory to find that scientific criticism